she just keeps telling me to talk about it. And I'll just say one more thing, please. I just this morning we were talking about the fact that the Bible says that the husband should love the wife like Christ loves the church. Yeah. And if I look at myself, do I really love Funke like Christ loves the church? I don't think I do yet. Very honestly, because if you think about the love that Christ has for the church, it is such a high standard that we'll probably die trying. There's always a better version of your marriage. There's always a better version of your marriage. Always is.
So no matter how sweet it is,
it can be sweeter.
Hey!
It can be sweeter.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today is a very, very special day. Today is our 11-year wedding anniversary. And it feels so special.
Yes.
And yeah, we took our time to come to Quebec City and we've been having a great time.
Yeah.
But we just thought to do a quick video to recap on different lessons that we have learned in 11 years. I mean, we are still learning, but I feel like we've learned enough to be able to at least share with
someone out there. Yes.
And yeah.
And just to say, it's our personal, some of the personal things we've learned.
Yeah.
We also understand that people have different routes and different perspectives. So there really isn't one way to look at things in life generally, but in marriage as well, there really isn't one way to look at it. Yeah.
And I think for us as well, even doing this video is kind of a reflection for us as well. For things for us to notes.
Yes.
Maybe
that's good.
Sometime again we can watch this video and be like, okay,
so as you're speaking to you, you're speaking to ourselves as well. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, let's get right into it.
Yes. Right from the very beginning. So the very first one for me is God has to be the foundation of every single marriage.
Yeah, like the source.
Yes. God instituted marriage. Marriage was not just a coincidence. It was something God was deliberate about making. That man and woman should come together and build a home.
Yeah.
So God has to be the foundation of that marriage. And as I look at my relationship with Funke as well, firstly, we met in the house of God. I know that kind of sounds cliche. But also, and more importantly, everything we do, everything we discuss, every quarrel we resolve is because we have a common guide, which is the Bible. And
we also know that some of the values that we share are God-focused.
Yes.
The Bible, like you said, is our yardstick.
Yes.
And it's so nice when you have that common foundation, because I'm not trying to convince you that you're supposed to love me as Christ loved the church, or you're not trying to convince me that I'm supposed to submit to you.
Yeah.
Because we know that that's what God expects from us.
Yes.
We know that that's our beginning.
100%.
The expressions of that sometimes you might struggle with, but that is just like the foundation. That's something that we go back to.
Yes. And of course, culture plays a role in that as well. But I think knowing that we have that same Christian foundation really helps. On the one hand, to Funke's point, it helps that we know what the Word of God says about our relationship. Even right from when we were dating, we knew what was permissible versus what was not, based on the Word of God. And when we got married, we were clear on that. Until date, we are clear on what that is. But there's a second part where there are things beyond the realm where we even see. But that I can stay in my place of prayer and pray about certain things for my marriage. Funke can be in a place of prayer and pray about certain things about our marriage, and we can collectively pray about those things. It's one thing when you battle things that you see, but things that are even unknown, we pray for our children before they come. We are speaking about them and all of that. It's because God is the center of our foundation. Until date, one prayer I never miss to pray is, God, my family is yours. That we give everything to you. We put you at the head of this family. We surrender our family to you, because ultimately this home is built on you.
Yeah, agreed. And I know that one prayer we used to pray when we were dating as well is that we wanted our relationship to be a light,
to be a testimony. Yes, I remember that.
I think that God has really shown himself strong in that. And also, maybe because at the beginning as well, we struggled with things like our tribal differences. So right from the beginning, I knew that God
had to be involved.
Like, I had no choice. And there were many things I did not know. And it kind of makes me I really like when you were praying this morning and you were talking about how God, are there things that, because, well, let me take it back.
Yes.
When you were talking about just now, when the things that we cannot see.
Yes.
Like God has seen the end from the beginning,
yes.
and then you are praying
yes.
that, God, are there things that we need for the next 11 years?
Yes, that we do not even know
yeah,
yet.
like
yes.
give,
yes.
bestow us that,
yes.
give that to us.
Yes.
So really, just that
100%, 100%. Hey friends, just to say it again, God is very essential in marriage.
Yeah.
We've seen God work wonders for us. We're still very much work in progress, but the way He has brought us so far, we will be most ungrateful not to acknowledge His presence in our marriage, because the things He has done for us. And I was saying to Funke that, quite honestly, we are not that smart. We are not that bright to build what God has built through us. You know, we're not that fantastic to build what He has built through us. Everything that He has handed to us is because we've put Him at the center of our home, and He will forever be at the center of what we're building.
Absolutely. And something else I wanted to say as well was how important it is to be centered in God as an individual before joining to somebody else. It's important to know who God has called you to be.
I love this.
Knowing that God has called you, said that you are beautiful, you are enough, you are valued, so that you're not looking to another person to get that validation from. Because the truth is that marriage is fantastic, marriage is great, our relationship is like amazing, but there are times when even we don't see eye to eye, right?
Yes.
I remember one time in particular, during COVID, I feel like COVID was one of our most challenging times, if I'm being honest.
I think one of the stories we've learned, the lessons we learned, to come back to that again. But go ahead.
Because during COVID, right, because Frank and I are, as you've heard us say many times, our foundation has always been built on friendship, right? We are the bestest of friends, and sometimes that is a very good thing. In fact, that is a very good thing most of the time. But you also find that sometimes that can flip, because it's very easy for you to want to take some things for granted. So you know how COVID was, like, people were cooked in, like, were doing things.
We're all trying to adjust to a new way of living.
And I felt like Frank just saw me as my guy
in the house.
And then me, I was like, because we're not doing the things that usually would bring the spark, maybe the going out, the dates, and all of those things.
We're not missing each other. We're in each other's face all day.
And it was just like, no, this can't be. Then one particular time, as in, I want to say we lost someone, but I feel like that's one of the things that we both struggle to. Somebody, I know some of you might know her, Ibitu Ibudalo. We lost many people during this COVID period. COVID was, I don't even want to think about that period again. But we lost so many people. One of them was Ibitu Ibudalo. And that lady, I don't know her personally, but I know her story. I've watched her talk. Her husband was one of the pastors that built us up. Even when we were in university. And so I just felt like I knew her.
There's a connection.
Her death really shook me. Guys, I was grieving. I'm sure some of her family members did not cry as much as I did. Maybe it was just the whole COVID period. Maybe I was just looking for something to finally just break down. But that really,
and I think for you as well, it's kind of brought the whole COVID thing to life. Really, because up until that time, it hadn't. It was just like something was going on. But now someone that is directly impacted by it.
Exactly. So I was grieving, as I was saying, but Frank, in his mind, was like, don't get me wrong, he reached out to me, he tried to comfort me, but after a while, he was like, auntie, get over this thing now. This person. But all in all, let me not digress too much. But one thing I told him after we got out of that situation, when I finally got back, I was like, if anything that this spirit has taught me is that God, the Holy Spirit, is my one true comfort. He's the only one I can count on. Because I really felt like you did not reach out, minister to me in the ways that I wanted to. And maybe that's another thing. Maybe that was the way I wanted to.
No, but I think it's a very valid demand. And it kind of brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is about friendship. So for me, in that particular order, as we think about, firstly, God as the foundation, the next thing has to be friendship, core friendship. And to what the story Funke was talking about. Now this is not in my defense, but I think, and I remember that period clearly, because one of the first things was she said, we all heard the story. The story broke that a popular pastor's wife had died. Funke knew her, as in followed that story. We knew the fat pastor as well because he was part of the leaders in our fellowship back then. You know, and I noticed that some days following that, or that period, Funke began to, you know, she got moody. You know, and her eyes were swelling. She was crying.
Even the children knew.
Yeah, everybody knew. But for a long time, for a long time, I didn't even know if that was it or there was something else. You know, I know at some point I had to ask her that, is this something I did or is it about this? And she now told me what it was about. I was like, oh, babe, I'm sorry, or something like that. You know, but I kind of expected that one sorry would be okay and she would get out of it. But it continued, and I could not understand. I could not relate with it, quite honestly. Of course, it pained all of us that we had lost a person that we all knew technically. But I didn't know why she would go on for days like that, you know. But I think this is where friendship comes in. Yeah. In two ways. One, it should get us to be selfless, you know. Even if you can't relate with it, you should be empathetic about it and put yourself in that person's shoes and say, hey, I can't feel it the way you're feeling, but if it hurts you the way it hurts you, then I'll be there for you the way you need me to be there for you. On that one, I agree, I failed. Yeah. I agree, and I'm admitting it publicly, I failed on that one.
And it's so funny because at times I could not come and say, that COVID period, it just really, and I'm like, don't even say it, because if I remember that period, no, I agree. It also made us realize how important, like you were saying, friendship is, because in that period we were all we had, right? So even in the moments where I had that episode, but just the other times, just spending time together, if our foundation was not built on friendship, like you had said, would have even struggled. That was the only reason why we could even talk about it eventually. And you know, so come to the table and say, hey, you did this, and I kind of felt I needed you to reach out more, and you just were not reaching out. And I think part of what friendship does, it helps you see the good in the other person. Absolutely. You know, and just realize that this person means well. He may not be reaching out like I want him to, but I know it doesn't mean well for me. He's just probably confused. Just doesn't know how best to approach this matter. But I think friendship is a really good place to start. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because when you were talking, I'm just thinking about love languages, and I think maybe that's a video that we should do separately. Frank and I have different love languages, right? So sometimes, and I think most couples, most couples do. So sometimes that can, play out in a way that we express things, or we want to feel loved, and the way we receive love and the way we express love. Yeah, so let's talk about that in another video. But I thought what you were even going to, for instance, with Funke is, it makes a world, as in, guys, I'm not and I'm not exaggerating. It makes a world of difference when I touch her. You know, it's that I can just touch Funke and hold her hand, and I suspect that a lot of ladies might be like this too. No, it depends on, I think touch is my number one. Yes, it makes, but for me, I don't know. You're grieving, so how does that touch? If I touch you, how are you? I'm like, how would I just touch you? If I touch you, I'm trying to get your attention or say something to you. But I know, like when we're in the car, if I just reach out and hold Funke's hands, she pretty much melts. Till today, it gets her. You know, and it's something I've had to learn over the years, that even if you're quarreling or we have an argument and I don't say sorry, if I start by touching, more than half the problem is solved. The remaining we can get through it, you know. So again, it's about friendship and understanding each other very well. And I just want to close with this, and I'll go to the third point because it's kind of connected to friendship as well. But you see, there's something about friendship that helps in marriage, where, to Funke's point, we got to a point where we almost became housemates because we were locked up together during COVID. We weren't going out and coming back and asking how was your day. I knew how I did. So she was sitting right next to me. So I was having meetings, and Funke was giving me feedback on my meetings and things like that, you know. So we needed that friendship to go beyond just friendship, to also keep the spark going. And it brings me to the third point around, you must be intentional about keeping the spark up. Absolutely, because with marriages, particularly when you are over 1 year, 2 years, and the first years, hopefully, that those moments everything is hot and sizzling. But if you're not intentional about keeping the spark, you'll find out that things begin to sizzle off, right? So you must always do things that, whether it's having date nights, whether it is I think it was in that moment we started our date nights, right? Whether having not like I said, just
I had
a consistent date
the structured template.
Whether it's doing something that you both love doing together, is it traveling, is it like going, hiking, whatever it is, right? Just being intentional, and of course in the other room as well.
Yes.
I think that sex is the barometer of a relationship.
It's extremely important. Of course, it goes without saying.
In fact, I feel like maybe we should use ourselves as a point of contact. There are moments when if things are beginning to, you can just step back and say, what's
the source of the problem?
We've not done this in 2 days or 3 days, or you can tell that call, come on. And then, right, so it's important that you're so intentional about keeping the spark, whatever that means for you, in your relationship. But just make sure that things are still.
I agree. The way I like to think about it is when we get married, we light a fire. But the oil you put or the gas you put in that fire from the start is not what sustains it. You need to keep topping it up. You need to keep topping it up. Otherwise, it's gonna die out. And I think for guys, at some point we get relaxed. And we just want our wives to be that person that we gist with, or we tell stories, and
the chase, very easy. You get that pursued, and then the chase is over.
But we just have to keep that up. And I find that with Funke, it doesn't take a lot to keep that spark up. And I go back to that touch. If I hug Funke and I hold her and I give her a kiss on the forehead, or we kiss at it, for her, it just keeps that fire burning, And this is probably the message to me as well, and to many guys out there, that sometimes you don't feel like it. Sometimes you don't feel like the need to chase, but if you know what keeps your spouse's love language going, engage her or him on that level.
And same for me as well. I know that Frank likes quality time. I know that he likes words of affirmation. I know that. So it's not just a guy to a girl as well. I also have to be intentional about feeding into his love language.
100%, guys. Please keep that spark going. You guys are best of friends. You have God as a foundation, but you see intimacy in marriage, and that's what that spark is about. It's about intimacy in marriage. It's not just about being friends. It's about being intimate as well,
and making a conscious effort
to remain attracted to each other.
Because when the kids come,
when life be life.
When work, career, everything is so easy to just forget.
But we must be intentional.
And that's something I feel like we do well. Like Frank and I, constantly. It's our relationship. People look at us and laugh sometimes, but we are constantly dating. I feel like we are constantly dating.
And it's really very important. It helps. It helps you overcome a lot of barriers. So it helps you, and guys, this is the trick. It helps you avoid a lot of problems as well. A lot of explaining, so just do it and have a better life.
Are we talking about communication?
Let's talk about communication. Yes.
Communication is so
that's
key.
A great point.
Communication is so key, and communication is not just talking, but also
even listening.
And making sure that you are hearing what the other person is trying to say. And sometimes sometimes I could not be the best of communicators, right? But it's also important for my spouse, like that's Frank, to try to understand.
Can I help you there?
Yeah.
Let me help out a bit. And I think what Funke is going to is Funke is quite emotional if you know her. When something really hurts her, and it doesn't have to be a painful experience, but if it's really deep and serious to her, when she starts talking about it, she tends to cry. And then she will go left, she will go right, she will not necessarily hit the nail on the head. And for me, a lot of times, I think thankfully, a lot of times I know what she's trying to say. I know where she's going to. I know the heart behind it and the intent behind what she's trying to say. And I think for spouses as well, it's about knowing that even if your spouse is not exactly saying it, you kind of get a sense of how they're feeling. But sometimes because we do not necessarily agree with what the person is saying, we want to push that aside and derail the conversation and not take it to where it's supposed to go to. But I think it's about, to your point, being intentional and listening with an intention to understand. A lot of times we listen with intention to respond.
Very defensive.
Versus listening to understand. I really want to understand where you're coming from. And it gets easy when you know someone too well. You feel like, I already know where you're coming from. I already know where you're going to. You don't need to complete your sentence. No. Listen. There might be a different spin to it that the person didn't bring up yesterday and they're bringing up today that you need to understand.
So true.
So true. And I think that communication is very important. I heard a pastor, Pastor Mildred, talking about, he said sometimes the husband is speaking French and the wife only hears German. you know. And it's if you're not speaking my language, you're not communicating. You might be talking, but if I'm not listening to hear what you're saying, then it's falling on deaf ears.
And also being vulnerable, I think that's something that has helped us. We are both what with something that we've always said right from the moment dating, naked and unashamed. Like feel free to come up with anything. Feel free to come to me with anything. I can talk to Frank about anything. You can talk to me about anything. Being open enough to not only communicate but also respond in the way that makes the other person being free enough to come to you the next time. This is something that we've had to work on because I can be very responsive quickly. I can respond like if I cannot say it, I'll be like geez. But it's so important to be able to know that you know I have to remove my emotions sometimes from things and be logical in the way guys want to receive like communication, or rather want people to respond to communication.
And just understand that guys and girls communicate differently. Usually ladies communicate with a lot of emotions behind it. Guys usually communicate devoid of emotions. We focus on the logical part, on the facts versus the emotions. So a lot of times when the lady brings the emotion before the fact, you kind of lose the fact, because the guy is focused on your emotion and wondering, why are you crying? Can we talk, or let's leave this and come back kind of differently. But I think to your point, communication is extremely key. We can't overstate the importance of communication. I said to someone that some of the signs of a breakdown in marriage is when the husband and the wife are not talking. Forget the Bible you're reading, forget the prayers you're praying. If you're not talking to one to another, you know, things can slip in between you guys, and what can be resolved becomes all of a sudden such a big issue for you to resolve. So please, if you're dating, newly married, or your husband or wife, talk about things, the most difficult things. It's our 11th year anniversary today. Funke and I have had some heart-to-heart conversations this morning on, hey, it's been a beautiful 11 years. What are the areas where we need to be fixed? It's not perfect. We still need to work on things. We had an 8-hour drive here yesterday. We had conversations on our marriage as well. Open conversations. In fact, I was saying to her that the areas where I don't talk to you about is not because I don't want to, but because I feel I need to protect you from certain things. I do not want to talk to you on certain things I feel I have good understanding of, and I just confuse you in the mix, you know. There's some areas Funke is a lot better than me on. There's some areas where I'm a lot. So I talk to her as FYI versus talking to her for input and things like that. But communication, if I know more, Funke should not hear anything and be surprised that Frank never told me this, or vice versa. Communication is very important. The next thing I want to talk about, and it's about communication as well, kind of an offshoot of communication, is resolving conflicts. Resolving conflicts. 11 years, you can bet we've had lots of conflicts.
Lots
of conflicts, yes. At least on average, maybe we've had one conflict per year. Is that not 11 conflicts? Is that not it? And a lot of them. So one of the things we will say, and I hope everybody understands the heart behind this, is not to brag in any way. But in 11 years of marriage, not once have we raised voices at each other. Not once have we said abusive words to each other. Never. It has never happened. Or we've used words that we've come back to say, hey, I didn't mean to insult you. No, it has never happened.
And that's
never.
So important. That's so important. We should always remember that. Maybe that's taken out. Let me not let you lose your thoughts. Your spouse is not the enemy. Right? So even in your fight fair, fight clean. Don't not even fight. Like we have disagreements, but don't fight each other, because the battle is not against you guys. You guys are a team, right? We are working towards a common goal. So have disagreements, talk to each other about your misunderstanding, but always remember that your spouse is not the enemy.
100%. And I'll say the way Pastor Kingsley said it. Said you can have opposing views, but don't become the opponent. You can have opposing view, but don't be the one that stands in the way of your partner. Whether you're the husband or you're the wife, don't. You can disagree on issues, come to the table, discuss it. And sometimes two of you have correct views. You have two good options, and both of you just are deciding or arguing on which is the better one to go with. But understand that what you're dealing with is the view, not the person. Because firstly, this person is my friend, so this person means well for me. This person is not trying to hurt me. But you see, some of the things I find sometimes is out of arrogance, ego, stubbornness, or any of those things, You want to make your point get across, and you're frustrated that your partner is not getting it, and you derail the conversation by saying something you should not say, or doing something you should not do. So resolving conflict, always understand firstly that this person means well. Secondly, if your partner for whatever reason erroneously says something wrong to you, do not be quick to respond. Take your time. Whatever you say in the place of anger is not going to get you the right response. You're most likely going to say the wrong thing. Take your time, walk away from it, come back to the conversation. You don't have to resolve it there and then. You know, a lot of times what causes problem is when two people have very strong opinion and no one is willing to back down. You know, for whatever is worth, focus on the bigger picture, because you might win the war but lose the battle. Focus on what really matters. Are you willing to die on that mountain? Is it really worth it? You know, or should I let this go and come back at a later time to resolve it? But you must have a way to resolve conflict. Have a way to resolve conflict.
And I think over the years or over time, depending on how long your relationship has been, you should know what works for your marriage, right? The way, you know, if couple A might resolve conflict is different from the way you know you guys resolve. So whatever works for you, whatever you see that your partner, how best it is it that after eating is the best way to talk about an issue, or after
then feed them well, so you can talk about
after time in the other room, or is it after whatever it is, right? Do what works for you. And that kind of brings me back to something else I wanted to talk about, is like comparison being the thief of joy, right? It's so common nowadays for people to compare things. You know, you see things on the outside on social media, and you're like, oh, I wish my husband was this, I wish my husband was that. But comparison is a thief of joy, right? Tender to your own garden. Like, water your own garden.
Take care of your own flock.
Exactly. Like, don't compare how another person does this. Like, work on your own relationship, grow your own relationship, whatever you need to do to make your relationship better, to make your spouse better, to make you better, do it.
No, you're absolutely right, because the grass that you think is greener on the other side is because they are laboring to water their grass. You know, if you spend the same time labor, and again, I say this understanding that sometimes you are coupled with a spouse that is extremely difficult and extremely impossible. In that moment, please go to God in prayer. Pray and pray as much as you can. If you've spoken and you've done all you know to do and nothing works, please pray. Spend time to pray. You know, you cannot pray enough about it. You cannot pray enough. Pray until that change happens. If that change does not happen, continue praying. But you see, sometimes it's not even prayer that is the problem. It's just the fact that you don't understand your spouse as good enough, or you are having aspirations of something else that is not yours. The strength of the other couple might be your weakness. The weakness of the other couple might be your strength. Focus on your own strength and build from your own point of strength. You know,
and even for your spouse as well. Like, what you admire, that somebody else is doing. What is your spouse doing? Right? Like, there's some things that Frank is amazing. There's some things that I know that as into tomorrow.
If you can't get me to do well,
I can't get you to do, and vice versa, right? But I will be foolish to now, you know, focus on that 10%. As in, the 10% is not there, and forget the 90%. Like,
I absolutely
that
agree.
does not even make any sense.
And babe, I think you make a good point as well. Of, if you know what your husband does well or your wife does well, no matter how little it is, spend time to say thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you. Do not take it for granted. Thank your spouse for the things. You know, sometimes you are willing to point out the things they don't do well. But we undermine and underemphasize the things that they are really good at. No matter how irrelevant it is, say thank you. Sometimes your husband might not be domesticated and you're like, oh, you can't help with this, you can't help with that. But the things he helps with, maybe he goes out to fill up your car every day. He ensures that your car is running. You know, if your car has a breakdown, he's there to take care of it. He does other things. Say thank you for it. And the same thing for your wife, whatever it is. And I think guys probably feel at this more. Do not take things for granted. Be deliberate about saying, hey, I see what you're doing. The world might think it's your role as a mother to take care of the home, for instance. But it doesn't mean I don't come to my wife and say, thank you for how you're raising these kids. Thank you for what you're doing as a mother to this kid. Thank you for how you keep this house organized. Left to me, I probably would not know that this house can be this well organized. Thank you. You know, for putting some orderliness in this home and to the house. Thank you. You know, it gets them excited to even go above and beyond. So that when you tell them tomorrow that I would like you to please do XYZ. They take it, they're more open to receiving it because they understand that this person appreciates the little I do. So if he says I should do more, I'm willing to do more. But if you don't see the little I do, why are you asking me to do more? What ground would you ask me to do more? Yeah.
And it's so important. Yeah, I agree. Don't take things for granted.
Yeah.
Taking each other for granted shouldn't even be on the table.
Yeah.
We should always take time to appreciate each other.
Yeah.
Appreciate the things that we do for each other. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. One other thing I wanted to add is the place for openness. You know, the Bible talks about how, and you use that a bit to say how they were naked. Adam and Eve, talking about Adam and Eve, they were naked and unashamed. If you take that to our current context, it means 100% openness. Nothing should come as a surprise. You know, for guys, and I think even for me, and most guys are like this, where we have things in our head we are trying to work out, we're trying to fix it, and we're trying to sort out, and you don't bring your partner into it. Truth is, it affects your relationship with your partner. You want to resolve it and then come out of your space, you know. But I think there's also a place of carrying your partner along and making them understand that firstly, you're not the problem. You see, what I'm thinking about and what you see me going through is not having to do with things I'm dealing with, maybe from the workplace, maybe from my financial place. I didn't want to carry along, but there should be 100% openness. Nothing should be secret to your wife.
Yeah.
There's a place for surprises, or your spouse. There's a place of surprise. If you want to surprise, give them a surprise party. By all means, you can do that. Yeah. But do not keep anything secret. It should be an open book. Yeah. I don't know if this still happens, that husbands and wife will hide phones from each other, hide their accounts from each other. Okay, but again, those spaces should be open. There's something about trust in marriage that you can beat your chest. Now, it doesn't mean the other person is perfect, or it doesn't mean yourself are perfect, you know. But I'm comfortable knowing that if I make a mistake tomorrow, I can come to Foke and say, you know what, this is what I did and I'm sorry. And it has happened that I come to her and say, this is where I went wrong and I'm sorry. And we'll talk about it and we'll ensure it doesn't happen next time and we'll resolve it and move on. But there has to be that place of openness and sincerity in marriage, that your husband or your wife knows that there's nothing that is news from outside. We can discuss it because my wife or my husband has talked to me about it already. Everything is an open book, you know. You're not planning something. I think for some spouses or especially husbands, I don't know. I think people from my mother's generation, you know, when your husband stumbles and say, my wife has this much money in her account and I had no idea, you know. And I hope women are no longer hiding money from men or men hiding money from husbands.
My money is my money. Your money is our money.
My money is our. You know, we should all have an open approach to these things and keep very open agenda. I think it helps when your partner knows that you absolutely trust them. It breeds a sense of responsibility in them that they do not want to disappoint you because they know you trust them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think one more thing for me is just speaking in one voice regarding a lot of things.
That's a good one.
Particularly when you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Speaking in one voice in regard to your ideologies, your values, your parenting style.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you don't have different views.
Yeah.
But it's just also showing up as one.
Exactly. Yeah. Because sometimes that I might not agree with what Frank is saying, or he might not agree with what I'm saying. Because remember that we are two different individuals who are both raised differently, you know. And we
still have different perspectives on lots of matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also important to come out in one.
Yes.
So in front of our kids, let them not see that, daddy said yes, mommy said no.
Yes.
And then they can always now say, okay, when we want this, we go to daddy, when we want this, we go to mommy.
Yeah.
Or even just to outsiders as well.
Yeah.
Like always have that oneness.
Yes.
Come together and agree on.
Yeah. Even if you do not agree, and there should always be, because otherwise you give people an opportunity to breed division between both of you. You know, and it's funny because the Bible talks about, and we're just reading it today, how the Bible says that we are one flesh, and then in Ephesians it goes ahead to say that I'm talking about Christ and the church. But it says the man shall live to the wife and they shall become one. You know, that you are one in your opinion, in your outlook, in everything you talk about, you are one. You know, and Jesus talking to the Pharisees said, that can a kingdom be divided against itself? You cannot be divided. If you're one, we can't oppose each other. You know, we'll speak with one voice, and then we can go behind and say, by the way, this thing we talked about, is this really the way it should be, or should we go back and fix it? You know, there is nothing more. There are few things more disgusting than having a couple argue in public over things that they should have resolved. You know, go back, have a conversation, speak with one voice, because you're one. Whether it's the wife speaking or the husband speaking, I know there's a place for culture in all of this as well, but there should be a unified stance and a unified outlook in terms of how you speak. And again, quite honestly, a lot of times it's not even something you work too hard on. By the time both of you understand each other well enough, and I think it comes with time on longevity in marriage, that you almost know what your spouse's opinion would be. When you say something that I think that I said that I know Fokia would not agree, while I'm saying it, I already know she won't agree with it. Yeah, and the same thing she does as well, but she's like, okay, babe, I know you won't agree with this, but this is what I think. And it's fine, we can play those things down, we can have those conversations and all of that. But yes, it's absolutely important that just as the Bible expects us to be one, we really are one, and we show up exactly as one.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good place to end all of this.
Yes,
and just that oneness.
Yes.
The couple knowing that you are one.
Yeah.
Like as we said earlier, your spouse is not the enemy.
Yeah.
You're just one in everything, and it just helps. Like having that understanding that my body is your body.
Yes.
You are me, I am you. Like, why would I want to hurt my body?
Yes.
Why would I?
As much as I love myself, I have to love you.
Yeah.
And I know Funke said this before, but I just had one thing to add.
Sure.
And it's that place of never giving up on your marriage. Sometimes we hit certain rocks, or we hit certain buttons or certain walls, and we feel like, you know what, this is it. I'm done. This guy can never change. This lady can never change. Never give up on your marriage. But Funke and I sharing the Bible this morning, we're talking about how God, over time, from the days of Adam, He has been pursuing after us, after man. The Bible talks about how from the foundations of the earth, the Lamb was slain. This was before Adam even sinned. So He made provisions for us before Adam even fell into sin. And the Bible makes it clear to us that God never gives up on us. If He doesn't give up on us, we should at the same time not also give up on our marriage. Keep doing all you need to do. You might have done it several times and this person betrays your trust. Please pray. Please try. And this is my personal view, by the way, that unless there's a threat to life, stay in it and work on it. Unless there's a threat to life. We're all different human beings. We are all very imperfect beings trying to make things work. Do not draw the line. I find too often these days people are really quick to throw in the towel and say, you know what, this is not working, it's not by force. I'm not saying it's by force. It's to be enjoyed, but don't give up too quickly. Be willing to put in the effort to make it work. Some of us, if we wrote exams and we failed, we'll re-register and write it again. But when it comes to marriage, just want to walk away and feel like, I failed it. I'm not retrying this exam.
This is not working.
Let's give it the effort. It's an absolutely beautiful institution.
And what you water, once it grows, like you're the one that will reap the benefits, 100%, right? 100%. Like if you don't put the work in it, then you will not reap the benefits. So you have to put
Yes. And it's an equal balance. We all have an equal role to play in building our home. Let's not leave it for one party to do it. Everybody has a role to play. Great. So
nuggets.
We can't share all our lessons in 11 years. There are too many lessons. If you want more lessons, book a private session and we'll share more. But these are some of the top ones we thought we would share. It's our 11th year anniversary, and hopefully someone is blessed by something we've said out there today.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. If there's any particular lesson that speaks to you most, drop it in the comment section. Let us learn from you as well.
Exactly.
What are the lessons that you have learned
that we didn't even talk about? Yes, we'd love to learn as well. Yes.
Marriage is constantly learning. I think that's something else that we should add.
Yes.
You should constantly do things to learn, develop yourself. If you are listening to sermons, reading books, reading the Bible together. If you need to go to therapy, whatever you need to do, like just to continually put work into your marriage.
The more we talk about it, the more she just keeps telling me to talk about it. And I'll just say one more thing, please. I just this morning we were talking about the fact that the Bible says that the husband should love the wife like Christ loves the church. And if I look at myself, do I really love Funke like Christ loves the church? I don't think I do yet. Quite honestly, because if you think about the love that Christ has for the church, it is such a high standard that we'll probably die trying. And that's a yardstick that we'll continue to push towards, And it's just that place of understanding. It goes back to your point that we're always learning. There's always a better version of your marriage. There's always a better version of your marriage. Always. We keep pushing forward to sharpen each other. Like the Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. We'll keep pushing each other forward and keep getting better at it.
So no matter how sweet it is,
it can be sweeter. It can be sweeter.
That means I'm up to this next 11 years.
Don't worry. You need to buy a budget. Oh my.
Alright, friends. Thanks for watching. And if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. All the good stuff, like, comment, share this video with your friends that are in marriages, that are looking to marry, whatever.
Yeah.
Bye, and see you in the next one. Take care.